Good morning, everybody. Today, that is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. We are here again for another class of Master in Business Administration, second semester students for the subject Human Resource Management. Yesterday, we were doing about selection and we have completed till reference check. Now, today, we have to do the fifth step in selection, that is medical examination. Now, let us see what is medical examination, right? Medical examination is a step which is uh, given to those candidates who are selected finally, and the medical examination is being done in order to find out the medical suitability of the candidate in respect to the organization and in respect to the job for which he is being selected. Physically unsuitable candidates who are not medically suitable for that particular profile will be eliminated in the medical examination, right? Medical test is given by the medical expert appointed by the employer, right? Medical physical examination disclose the physical characteristics or some physical problems which if exists in the candidate, right? So that you may be able to select right candidate with right physical characteristics, right? And he should not be having any medical problem or health related problem in order to perform his job, right? So medical examination becomes necessary and it is a part of each and every selection process, right? Now coming down to the next, appointment letter or job offer, right? When a candidate qualify and when a candidate is clear through all the stages of the selection, finally he will be offered with the job offer letter, right? And this job offer letter consists of the offer of the jobs, including the terms and conditions, salaries, and rest of the things, right? Thereafter, the candidate is required either to accept or he is given a certain period of time, say a week's time or 15 days time or a month time, to give his acceptance or rejection in this context. If he rejects the offer, then the candidate who is into the waiting list will be called for, and if he accepts the offer, then he will be asked to join the organization, and ultimately when he joins the organization he will be provided with the appointment letter, right? And this is the end of the selection process, right? So here the selection process ends. So now we will start with the next, right, next topic, which is training objectives and benefits. All right, we'll start with it because these 2 points were left behind yesterday, so I just thought of completing them, right? So let's start with the topic of today, and the topic of today is training, right? Now let's start with training, right? Let's understand training. When you select the candidate for the job, it becomes necessary for the human resource department to impart training to them so that they may be able to perform their job well, right? In today's world, when technology is growing so rapidly, it is very much necessary to train the employees from time to time, so as to keep them in touch with the new developments and so that they may be able to cope up with the technology well. For every business, it is necessary that they should be having a systematic training program. Otherwise the employee will be doing their job with hit and trial method, which will prove to be very costly to the organization because it involves a lot of wastage, right? And because of this wastage, ultimately the ultimate loss is for the organization itself, because if there is more amount of wastage, the resources will get wasted, and ultimately finally who will be losing? The organization will be losing, because waste will increase the cost of production, right? So employee should be trained. Now coming down to the next slide, it talks about certain definitions of training. Like first definition given by Flippo, right? Which is a very popular definition, right? What Flippo said? Flippo said training denotes a systematic procedure for transferring technical know-hows to the employees so as to increase their knowledge and skills for doing particular jobs in an organization. Okay, training is a process by which you improve and impart knowledge to the employee in relation to a particular job so that the employee may be able to do that job in a in the best possible manner and with minimum amount of wastage, right? Training is a kind of process which increase the skills and knowledge of the employee so that the employee may be able to perform his job better, right? It Training involves development of the skills within an individual which are necessary to perform a particular job, right? Different job requires different skills to be performed, and it is the duty of the organization to provide proper training to the employees so that the employee may be able to perform his job in a better sense and in a better manner, right? The purpose of the training is to bring about positive changes in knowledge, skills, and attitude of the employees. The objective of the training is to bring about changes in skills, knowledge, and attitude or and attitudes of the employees towards the job, right? To improve the skills, their work will improve. To improve the knowledge, their work will improve. To improve their attitude, their work will improve, and their productivity will improve, right? Now coming down to the next slide, meaning of development, right? So we have seen what is the meaning of training, but there are a few terminologies like training, development, and education. All are considered to be generally considered to be the same, and people are using them interchangeably, but all these three terms differ from each other, right? Now let us understand the meaning of development here only so that we may not be having any confusion. When I say training, you should be understanding that it is training. When I say development, you should be able to understand clearly that what is development. When I say education, then too you should be able to understand clearly what is education. So let us understand the meaning of development and let us see what development is, right? So development is concerned with the growth of employees in all respect, meaning hereby development is actually development talks about overall development of an employee, right? Development is not the development of an employee in a particular area, but development means development of an employee in an overall manner. Development talks about overall development of an employee. Now development is a kind of process where managers or executives acquire skills and competencies in their present jobs and capabilities for future tasks. Development is not just having development is not just having the orientation that the employee should be able to perform well on their present job, but development aims rather more on preparing the executives and the managers for the future jobs, because there will be lot of technological and managerial changes in the future. So if you prepare your managers and executives in advance so that they may be able to perform the future jobs also without any problem, because you know then if you will not be preparing them for the future job, then ultimately you will be at the suffering end. So you should always look for not just present but also for the future and prepare your workforce for the future also. So the development aims at preparing the employees not only for their present jobs but also to prepare them for the future jobs also that they need to perform during the in the organization, right? So the main objective of development is imparting advanced knowledge competencies among the employees. The purpose or the main objective of development is to impart knowledge, advanced knowledge and competencies to the employees, so that they may be able to equip themselves, they may be able to keep themselves ready for any kind of challenges, right? Development is an ongoing process, and it's a continuous process which keeps on building the competencies of the employee, and thus it aims at overall development of the employees, right? Development is used in connection to the managers and executives and is described as management development or executive development, right? When we say development, we are strictly referring in context to the managers and senior executives of the organizations, right? And development programs are generally named as management development programs or executive development programs, because development programs are meant solely for the managers and the executives, right? Now moving further, meaning of education, let us see. This was the meaning of development. Now let's see what is the meaning of education. Okay, we have seen the meaning of training, we have understood the meaning of development. Now let us see what is education, right? Education is another most important term that we need to understand, and we should be able to differentiate in between training, development and education, right? Education is a kind of process by which we increase the knowledge and understanding of the employee. Through education we increase the knowledge of the employee and also the understanding of the employee. Knowledge is one thing and understanding is another thing, right? The understanding and interpretation of knowledge does not provide definite answer, but rather develop a logical and rational mindset. The purpose of education is to develop a logical and rational mindset, right? This is the most important thing, right? It is very easier to motivate an educated person, but it is very difficult to motivate an uneducated person, because right, because he is not having that kind of logical mindset, logical and rational mindset, right? A person who is not having a logical and rational mind, it is very difficult to make him understand something or the other round, right? So education develops a sense of logic and reasoning in our mind, right? Education further imparts qualities Education further imparts qualities of minds and characteristics of understanding the basic principles in and develop the capacity of analysis, synthesis and objectivities, right? It develops the capacity of synthesis, analysis and objectivity, which is very important, and it is needed. You needed to have all these in different spheres of your life. Wherever you go, you will be utilizing your education, because education is something that gives you a base to your mind, by which you will be able to rationalize and analyze the things. If you lack education, it will be a problem for you always, right? Education is far broader in scope as compared to training, right? Because training is strictly in context to a specific job, but education is having a wider scope as compared to training, right? Now moving further, distinction in between training and development. What are the basic differences between training and development? Let us understand this. You can expect a short note on differences in between training and development, definitely, right? So every topic, as I have already told you people, that whatever question paper I will be making, I will be strictly making the question paper from the lectures that I am delivering in your classes, right? So, and from time to time, I keep on reminding you people that you may get a question on this topic, you may be getting a short note on this topic, right? So these are the biggest hints that I am giving to you, right? So do listen to me carefully and prepare whatever I am teaching you very well, because whatever I am teaching you, you will be getting the same as the question in your examination, right? And in most of your interviews, you will be asked about these kind of questions, that how you can differentiate in between training and development, how you can differentiate in between training, development, and education, right? So let us come down to the distinction in between training and development. Both the term training and development, if we talk about, considers to be similar, and including the education, or they are used synonymously. The term training, development, and education, as I already said, are usually considered to be similar and used interchangeably, right? These terms have different meaning, connotation, and scope. So this is not correct to use them interchangeably. Training is a different thing, development is a different thing, and education is a different thing, right? If we talk about training, it is used to indicate the process by which attitude, skills, and abilities of employees to perform specific jobs are imparted. Right? What is training? Training is a process by which we impart. Training is a process, or training is a method by which we impart attitude, skills, and abilities to the employer to perform a specific job, right? It is imparting knowledge, skills, and attitude in order to perform a particular job. This is what the training is, right? But if we talk about development, it is different. It is growth of the individual in all respects. Development means at, or aims at overall development of the employee. Development is the growth of employees in all the respect. But the term development, if we talk about the term development, if we talk about in practice, development actually used in relation to managerial personnel, and training is usually used in terms of operative employees, because operative employees are performing certain specific jobs. That is the reason they are imparting training in respect to those jobs. And development, as we have already seen, is strictly in context to the managers and the executives of the organization, right? Training is a short term process, right? Training is only for a shorter period of time, say 1 day training, 2 day training, 3 day training, right? But development is comparatively a long term process, right? Development is a long term process, and it is having long term objectives too. Now, coming down to the differences in between training and development. So the first basis of difference is nature. Training is concerned with increasing the skills for doing a particular job. Okay. Training aims at imparting skills to the employees for doing a particular job. On the other hand, development is aimed at growth of the employees in all the respect. Development aims at growing, at the growth of the employee in all respect, the overall development of the employees. The second basis, level of personnel. Okay, training is used in case of operative employees, as we have already discussed. Training is mostly in the case of operative employees, but development is used mostly in the case of executives, managers, and professionals, right? Development is always in the case of managers and executives of the organization, and not the operative employees. Operative employees will always be subjected to training, right? Now coming down to the third, orientation. Training is job oriented. Training is always job oriented, because training is always in context to certain specific jobs. Development is career oriented. Training is always job oriented. Development is always career oriented, because it aims at overall development and or the development of employees in different aspects. So it is always career oriented. Fourth basis of difference, duration. Training is normally short term in nature. The duration of training is short, and the training is usually short term in nature. Development is long term in nature. Development is always long term in nature, right? Because it aims at 360-degree development of an employee. Fifth point of difference, initiative. Training is imparted to operative workers at the initiative of management. training is imparted to operative workers. And who is taking the initiative of training here? The management is taking the initiative of training to the workers. Workers are not coming and saying that we need to have training. Management is organizing the training program and is making it compulsory for the workers to undergo that training program. But the executives takes, but in the development programs, executives all by themselves are taking initiative that certain development programs should be scheduled for us, and we should be permitted to undergo those development programs so that we may be able to prepare ourselves for the future challenges or for the future jobs in the organization. Right. Six bases of different scope. Training, scope of learning. In training, the scope of learning is limited up to the job only. Why? Because training is given strictly in context to that particular job. So the scope of training is limited up to that job only. Right. You will not be learning anything other than in connection to your job. But the scope of learning is very wide in terms of development, it as it pertains to overall development of the employee. In development, the scope of learning is very high because it aims at overall development of the employee. But in terms of training, the scope of learning is only limited up to the level of your job. Seventh point of difference, depth of knowledge. The knowledge gained in terms in training particularly is not so deep because you have gained the knowledge only in connection to the job. You have gained the knowledge only in connection to the job. That is the reason the depth of training is not that wide, right? But if we talk about development, the knowledge gained is all round and long lasting, and the depth of knowledge is comparatively better as when we compared it to training, because in development you will be imparted a lot of knowledge, and that too in depth knowledge. Right. Right. So these are about the basic differences in between training and development. If you have any questions in connection to the differences in between training and development, then you can please let me know. Otherwise, we will move forward, right, to the next topic, which is the objectives of training. Any questions? Yes, please. Any questions from anybody? Please respond in yes or no. Hello?
No, sir.
Right. So let's move on to the next topic, and this is objectives of training. Right. So let us understand the objectives of training too. Right. The generals training has various objectives. Some of the major objectives of training, I have tried to summarize some of the major objectives of training. Right. First objective of training is to enhance knowledge of employees. Right. Organization, for organization, it is very necessary to meet to make their employee to keep their knowledge in tune with the latest development in the technology, so that they may be able to perform up to the mark. Right. Because of these improvement and innovation in science and technology, the employees need to keep themselves updated, and in order to keep themselves updated, it is very necessary to impart training to them from time to time, so that they may be able to learn and acquire the required skills in order to perform their job well. Right. Organizations are supporting their personals, so and training them so that they may not get obsolete. Right. The organization is supporting them through different training programs so that they may acquire new skills and may not get obsolete. Right. Employees are exposed to refresher courses and developmental programs with an objective to improve their utility to the organization, so that they may remain productive to the organization. Right. Second objective, to improve the job related skills. right? Some employees are not able to perform their job well because of some or the other of the reason, right? In like they possess inadequate skills and about their assignments, and thus they give poor they possess inadequate skills and knowledge of their assignments, because of which they give poor quality in their work, and their volume of output is less, and moreover they do a lot of wastage, right? They damage the equipments and tools, they respond insufficiently to the supervisor's instructions, and so on. So these all are symptoms that the employee is unable to perform his job well. He is unable to develop a sound understanding towards his job. So in such a case, they need a training course so that they may be able to remove their deficiencies, and they may be able to perform well on their job by acquiring skills through the training program. Okay. Now, coming down to the third objective of training, to develop proper job related attitudes, right? The employees through training develop positive and attitude towards their jobs, superiors, colleagues, and juniors, the goals, policies, and procedures of the organization, and to the environment of the workplace. The employee develops a positive attitude through training towards all these things, right? Employees in certain cases is ignorant and hostile towards job and interpersonal relation to the work culture, right? But through training, this kind of gap can be bridged up. The right development of the attitude of the employee and socialization of the employee helps in generating the teamwork and generating a consistent behavior of the employee, which is very much necessary for effective performance of his job in the organization, right? Now, fourth objective, to prepare for higher responsibility, right? The worker need to have opportunity to advance in his career. Everybody wants to advance in his or her career, right? Therefore, it is necessary that employees should be given high responsibilities, and they should be given more complex and more high level tasks. If they are performing up to the mark, they should be given those kind of challenging tasks that they need to have. For this purpose, particularly, organization design a system by which opportunities can be made available for employees for their career advancements, and prepare them through training in order to perform those jobs well. Now, fifth objective, to facilitate the organizational change. Organization is a dynamic body, and in order to adjust and adapt to the change in technology and environmental factor, it needs to bring in several organizational changes in its organization from time to time, right? Therefore, the workers and the employees need to learn new skills and capabilities to enable them to be receptive to the required changes, and to be able to adapt with those changes and perform productively. For this purpose, particularly, they should be properly trained, and people should be trained in the manner so that they may be able to adapt to all the changes that are brought in the organization, and may be able to perform their work effectively and efficiently, right? Any change which is caused by fear, anxiety, or unfamiliarity will lead to a problem. But if you are preparing your employees and the workers through training program in order to adapt with the changes, then you will find no problem at all at the part of your employees, right? Now, the next topic, this is all about the objectives of the training. Now, the need and importance of training, right? Let us understand the need and importance of training also. So any question in relation to the objectives of the training? Right. So if we talk about need and importance of training, training is a necessity and not a luxury. Training is not something which which you are there. Training is nothing like that, that you are on a holiday or you are enjoying something. Training is a necessity, right? It is not a holiday, it is not a luxury. Training is a necessity because training makes you ready in order to deal with the changes in the environment. Right? There are many big companies which are spending lot and lot of money for on training because it motivates the employees, and because of this motivation the employee work hard and work productively on their jobs, right? If employees are able to understand their job well, their morale increases and they have a sense of recognition and they are considered to be a valuable members in the organization because they will be counted among the performers, right? The basic purpose of training, if we talk about, is to achieve change in the behavior of the trainee. Trainees ultimately results in change in behavior of the employee because after training you acquire different skills that you need to perform your job well. Now, any training program should try to bring positive changes in these things. First thing, knowledge about the job and environment. Okay, knowledge, every training program should be providing you knowledge about the job and environment, which is very necessary. It is the basic purpose of our training program. Second point, if we talk about skills required for doing the job, you should be provided, you should be trained in the skills that you need to have in order to do that job productively and efficiently. The third point, attitude. You need to have a proper attitude in order to perform that job well, because unless and until you are having the attitude towards that, a positive attitude towards that job, you will not be able to perform that job. So you need to have a positive attitude towards that job, you need to develop an attitude towards that job so that you may be able to perform that job well. Right. Now coming down to the next slide. Training program is an attempt to increase the skills to help the employee to learn skills to necessary to perform his job efficiently. It also molds the attitude of the employees towards different workers, supervisors, and the organization as a whole, right? Training should also create a sense of responsibility among the workers, and he should be able to develop a right attitude towards his job. Training should give him a vision with the help of which he may be able to understand his job well and develop a right attitude towards his job so that he may be able to perform his job well, right? Now the benefits of training to the organization, what benefits the training is giving to the organization, or how training is beneficial for the